Granite Staters and millions of Americans, and triggering nearly $500 billion in cuts to Medicare. Just last week, I met with Granite Staters, including in New Hampshire's rural North Country, and I heard about what will truly be a devastating impact that these health care cuts will have on both the people who need health care and on the ability of providers who want to serve patients to keep their doors open. Kadisha, a young mother in Nashua, New Hampshire, in the southern part of the state, talked to me about the services that her son with autism gets because he has Medicaid coverage. Occupational therapy, physical therapy, behavioral therapy. He's making great progress. All of that is now at risk because of this bill. Now, Medicaid can be the difference between life or death for people and families, the difference between getting care for diabetes, for addiction, or cancer, or having these diseases go untreated. And seniors across our state have paid into Medicare their entire working lives based on the promise that the Medicare system will provide health care for them when they retire. This bill, one of the largest health care cuts in the history of the United States. Let me repeat that. This is one of the largest health care cuts in the history of the United States. Will result in more untreated diseases, packed emergency rooms, and even higher prescription drug prices. Just last week, someone I know was at one of our local hospital's emergency room. The wait for treatment for a routine infection in that emergency room was 7 hours. That's a real problem, and it will only get much worse if this bill passes. And as people lose their coverage and don't get care, rural providers who count on these patients will have to severely cut back their services or close their doors altogether. Now, let me tell you what's happening for pregnant women in my state. For a pregnant woman in labor, as you all know, every minute feels like an hour. In New Hampshire, the median driving time to a labor and delivery unit has already doubled over the last decade to 40 minutes. If more hospitals have to close their labor and delivery units because of these Medicaid cuts, that time will grow even longer. And let's also be clear, especially in the northern part of my state, if it's winter time, that 40-minute drive may be a life-threatening drive in and of itself, and it will take much longer. We've seen an uptick in New Hampshire in births that occur in unplanned locations. Just in January, a couple who ended up she had a home birth because she couldn't get to the hospital in time. For older and disabled Granite Staters, I heard in the North Country last week about a woman in her 80s who lives alone with her adult disabled son, who needs a community health worker to navigate the paperwork to apply for Medicaid and get the redetermination every year for her adult disabled son. She can't get through the paperwork without the help of a community health worker, and community health worker positions are being cut by this administration. So these new rules will have real impacts on people like my constituent who I just described and her disabled son. The bottom line here is clear. If congressional Republicans and Donald Trump get their way and pass their bill to give billionaires and corporate special interests more tax breaks at the expense of the middle class, more people will get sick, health providers will be impacted, our economy will be weakened, and families will be hurt. And last thing, I want to remind people that my colleagues and I, on both sides of the aisle, have, in fact, put forward a number of bipartisan proposals to lower healthcare costs. There's real work to be done in this area. But if my Republican colleagues are willing to abandon their dangerous partisan bill, we could actually do this work together and actually lower costs, healthcare costs, for our constituents. But right now, it appears that they are determined to pass this devastating bill. We're going to continue to speak out about the harms that it will cause, about the trillions it will add to our deficit, about the healthcare providers who will need to close their doors, about the real dangers this provides to the health, the security, and the economy of our states and our country. Thank you.
Well done, Maggie
Absolutely,
Hassan.
Maggie, great.
Just again, so you heard, everything's getting worse. The more you look at the bill, the worse it gets. It's now $1 trillion in cuts. It's over 800,000 job loss, many of them in nursing homes and rural hospitals. Just remember, they depend on Medicaid disproportionately. I've been in nursing homes in downstate, upstate, rural. They're all worried they're going to close. 70–80% of their revenue is Medicaid. Same with rural hospitals. And then you add the Medicare problems to it and the healthcare provider. Some of the bigger hospitals are going to be devastated and have to lay off people and not be able to treat people as well. But for the rural hospitals and the smaller hospitals, this is really death. And the bottom line is this is going to be devastating in America. I think if our Republican colleagues, God forbid they pass this bill and it becomes law, could turn the clock a year ahead, they'd all say, why did we do that? Why did we do that? Questions on this subject? Yes, ma'am.
GOP lawmakers have defended some of their budget bills, Medicaid reforms, by highlighting preliminary CEO projections of roughly 1.4 million illegal immigrants losing their coverage under state-funded health programs. Is reducing federal Medicaid payments to states that provide coverage to undocumented immigrants a reform that
Look,
you would support?
the bottom line is this overall bill is so awful. If they want to aim, if they got some specific issues, aim it. Don't just do a meat axe or a chainsaw across the board and cut everything. I don't know if their numbers are accurate. These are GOP numbers, but it doesn't matter. The bottom line is this goes way beyond even what they're talking about and hurts everybody. Next question.
Considering Elon Musk's robust opposition to this bill and the fact that he has not returned the call of the Speaker of the House, according to the Speaker, would you try to bring him into the fold to help kill this bill in the Senate?
He's not my cup of tea, to put it mildly, but Republicans are already listening to him. They're already listening to him. You've heard some of the right-wing groups uplift Elon Musk against Donald Trump. Yes.
One of the things that it sounds like he wants is to bring back the EV tax credit that's been taken out of the reconciliation bill. Is that another thing that you agree with on?
Well, I spoke on the floor about what they're doing overall in energy is just ridiculous. It's going to raise people's costs, thousands of dollars in terms of their power costs. Number two, over 840,000 jobs will be lost. And number three, it gives all the keys to China. So we have to revamp the entire energy package. And I've met several times with my 7 or 8 of my Democratic colleagues. I think Senator Wyden was in those meetings. And we're reaching out to Republican colleagues, as are our industries that are affected. 80% of these new clean energy industries are in Republican states. The whole thing needs revamping. Just like in healthcare. Yes?
Are you urging members to vote against the Genius Act on any final votes?
I voted no. There's a division in our caucus on that issue. The reason I voted no is because it did nothing to stop Donald Trump and his family from engaging in self-aggrandizing, self-enriching activities. Yes?
OMB sent a rescissions package to the Hill. I'm wondering what you think about that in light of Russ Vought's argument that he doesn't need to do this, that they have the right to impound funds. Do you think that sending that rescissions package kind of undermines his political point?
Well, I think the bottom line is the rescission package is something that we Democrats very much vehemently oppose. How are you going to have a budget? How are you going to put together budgets if they're then going to try to do rescissions? What's the point of doing a budget? But the good news is there are a good number of Republicans who don't like it either. Last one.
Leader Jeffries yesterday told us that he thinks the rescissions package is dead in the Senate, that it will not pass here. Do you agree with that?
Look, we're going to fight the rescission. They haven't even sent it over to us yet, so we can't comment on what's going to. We'll see what happens in the House. But I think there's broad Democratic opposition to the rescissions package. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, guys.
mailed it to him. Let's see what the house does. Cool posters, huh?
Cool posters.
Gracie, what do we talk about with you complimenting your own self?
It's not opposed.
I didn't know what you were doing.